past several run and gun matches and a few two-gun matches, I've been noticing an issue that's been pretty consistent during matches. For some reason, I'm having an issue hitting targets when shooting further than your normal engagement distance. At this point, insert here which you would consider normal engagement distance. Also, insert comments about what my lack of skill is for not being able to shoot distances further than your normal distance. A little background. I've been shooting the Primary Arms 3X micro prism with the ACSS Reticle for several years now. Well, that's a lot to say, isn't it? I've had a lot of success with the Optic, from shooting up close targets, but also out to around 200 to 300 yards in broad daylight, and then also at night, and then under low light conditions. Plus, I've even shot this in some decent rainstorms where the Optic's holding its own with not so signs of moisture entering the housing. But past that, I've not had an opportunity to shoot further. All that being said, it served me well enough through several run and guns, local two-gun matches in the area. So overall, I can say I've had a pretty decent experience with it, and I can say I'm quite happy with it. Well, that's for the most part. Recently, I've been shooting some matches where distance are a bit further than expected or was normal what I've been shooting. And I've been having problems with the ballistic drop compensated reticle, or BDCs for short, or as Primary Arms likes to say, the ACSS reticle, where the external ballistics does not always trude up to the BDC, meaning that BDC may be set for a specific bullet, for a specific distance, for a specific drop, for a specific velocity. If you're not a ballistics nerd like me, this part may not make sense, but to keep it short, that reticle is designed to have a hash marks for a very specific velocity. Now, you can calibrate it with your particular Sterilock or whatever your ballistic app is, but that's a whole other discussion. Now, this has also been compounded with the fact that I've been shooting and moving almost every optic that I own over to a mill-based reticle system, such as my Trijicon 10 mile 3 to 18 by 44 first focal plane optic. Again, that was a lot to say. Well, anyways, needless to say, I've had some issues making hits out to say 500, 525 yards on unknown distance targets at one two-gun match. This was a horrible experience, quite embarrassing, and especially people seeing how I was having issues hitting the target. To say the least, this was not a good experience. Which brings me to the unknown distance range at the Civilian Marksmanship Park in Talladega. I decided to come to the unknown range and just shoot different targets at various distances and see the various sizes from different positions. Realistically, I just wanted to try shooting different things and from different positions. I figured this would be a good way to diagnose the issue in a semi-controlled environment, plus get some much needed practice. Range the target, plug that data into my Sterilock ballistic app, and see if the BDC works out. Simple enough task in a controlled environment. Sounds good, doesn't it? I started at 150 yards and practiced with the fundamentals of basic rifle marksmanship until I got out to about 350 yards, where my hit probability was from 85% to 90% from the kneeling and standing position. At around 400 yards, my hit probability dropped from 90 down to roughly 50%. At 600 yards, I didn't have the confidence to actually engage the target. I stepped back to 200 yards and again worked my way back out to 300, 350 yards and spent the rest of the day working skills at that range. Now, all this being said, do I believe that it can be said that the Primary Arms 3X micro prism can make hits out to around 500 yards? Yes, it can. Under optimal conditions where everything has been taken into account and all the data has been plugged in, I believe it is 100% the case. Do I believe that in field conditions where you may or you may not be shooting in perfect conditions, where you don't always know the exact distance or the exact size, or even a perfectly paired ammo with your BDC? No, I don't even believe that to be the case. At least not for myself. And for these reasons, I've never went through and purchased my holy grail of an optic, the ACOG. I find the mill reticle to be more versatile than the BDC. And unfortunately, for some reason, Trijicon is not making the ACOG in mill reticles. But I digress. That's another discussion for another day. After spending many hours and a lot of ammo gathering dope, that's data on previous engagements for you non-nerdy shooters, I finally left. Not defeated, but at least with a better understanding of the limits of this optic. Now, do I think the 3x prism is a bad optic? No, quite the opposite. I believe it to be a phenomenal optic. I've shot it in many night matches and engaged with some interesting conditions and weather conditions. I've shot it in low light. I've shot it in almost no light. I love the Primary Optics, and I have several of their SLX line and will continue to purchase their products in the future. In fact, I took the 5x Primary 5x Micro Prism to the same unknown distance course at the CMP and was able to make hits out to 600 yards on the first round. That's also with a mill reticle, and I knew exactly how many mils to hold, so it was quite easy to say the least. That being said, I also believe that for myself, I have found the limits of what I can personally do with the 3x Prism and the max distance that I can confidently engage with it. Again, I know. Insert here comments where everyone's going to say, well, I can shoot X distance with mine, or I saw this gun tuber shooting 500 or 600 yards with this 3x Prism a while back. Well, that's great. Cool. Did anybody happen to see the targets, or was this just, on their word alone? I'm not going there. I'm just saying, as the saying goes, show your targets. So, after 2 years, I believe it's time to look for something else. Now, what that optic is, well, I guess you're going to have to subscribe and stay tuned, and we'll see what happens next.